Good evening. The opinions and statements voiced by our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this network. Enjoy the shows.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Full Spectrum Project. Today we are honored to have Johnny Zaffis with us, and he's a personal friend of mine, even though half the time he doesn't remember who I am unless he sees my face, and also a personal friend of Pete. Now, before we get started, I wanted to make a little bit of an announcement. This is our last show that will be held on Saturday. Next Thursday, we will.
No, it's this Thursday. It's this Thursday coming up.
Yeah, this coming up Thursday. We will be switching to Thursday nights from 8 to 10 Central.
Which is 6 p.m. California time.
Which,
so Brian knows.
Yes, and by the way, that is the correct time.
No, it's not, but that's okay.
You know, Central time is wrong, and Johnny, I'm sorry, but Eastern time, we don't even understand that. So, anyway, I'm your host, Brian Clune, and I am joined by my co-host.
Oh, I thought you were going to introduce me. Hi, I'm Pete Haviland.
Why would I introduce you?
I don't know. I don't even know why I talk to you still.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of wondering that myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, we are just thrilled to have Mr. Zaffis with us today. It's really an honor. So thank you, Johnny.
Glad to be on.
So to kick it off, you were involved with the haunting in Connecticut. Is that correct?
Yes, I was.
Now, I remember you telling me something about the movie that they made about that, and I remember you laughing and wondering, how you ended up being a terminal cancer patient in the movie. But can you tell us a little bit about the true case rather than the hyped Hollywood version?
Sure. It's a case of Carmen and Al Snedeker. They lived in upstate New York. Their oldest son, Philip, was diagnosed with cancer. They, really didn't have too much money. Her husband had worked at a quarry. And one of the doctors made a suggestion to try 2 hospitals in Connecticut to see if they can get on the program and everything would be covered. And she did. And she had chose the hospital in the Southington, Connecticut area. Al told her to start looking for a place to rent, and she did. And she went to this one house in a beautiful area, a lot of rooms in it, and very massive. So Carmen kept going back and forth. Al checked to see if he could transfer down to Connecticut, one of the quarries down here, and they agreed. And finally, the transfer came through, and the entire family moved in. And shortly after that, Philip really started to change a lot, and his personality started to change. He got, pretty mean with the younger kids and everything, kept talking about the big black shadow forms down in the basement, and it really escalated to a point that, Carmen didn't really know much of what to think of it, and she started asking the doctors. Doctors recommended that she take Philip to a psychiatrist, which she did. And he basically was under the impression that the fact of it was that, it was just something he was going through because he didn't know if he was going to live or not, and just started developing this whole inner thing. Well, it just reached a point where things got totally out of control with Philip in the house and everything. I'm giving you the short version, or I'd be on here for 2 hours.
That's okay. That's
all
right.
I was going to say, we wish you could.
But and it escalated out of control. He went after one of his cousins one night. They called an ambulance. They removed him and had him institutionalized. Now, up to this point in time, nobody else was experiencing things in the house. Shortly after that, everybody. And what finally did Carmen in is one of the nieces was being attacked. She went in with her Bible and rosary bead, went to read a passage, and a big black form came over them, and her rosary bead shattered all over the place. She called her local clergy in. They did, a couple of blessings. Nothing worked. She saw that my aunt and uncle, Ed and Lorraine, were lecturing locally. She met up with them. She had talked to them and set up the investigation and was involved with that case for 9.5 weeks staying at that house. It was pretty intense investigation, very intense with what different people experienced. There was no one that didn't experience anything in that house.
I remember watching that case on A Haunting. What was the one on that show? Was that fairly close to what actually happened?
More close, and it was more accurate because Carmen was actually giving a lot of detail to the things that occurred and happened. And there were several different experiences that did transpire in there and never made it into the movie, never made it into the, because I call the Discovery one a documentary, and it's actually closer to what actually occurred and the things that happened in that house. Now, again, just like any of the other movies or the TV shows or anything out there, you have the hype that goes along with it and things to get hyped up. But again, it's one of those types of cases that was super intense, but Discovery Channel doc was more accurate.
Gotcha. Some of the things that weren't brought up. Johnny? Hello?
What's that? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought I dropped you. What were some of the things that were not brought up in the movies and the documentaries?
Well, the different experiences that transpired, there were 3 or 4 different instances that I had in different areas in the house that would just totally blindside you, if you will. And, witnessing and just seeing different forms. There was a back hallway that led off to a couple of the different bedrooms, and there was a tremendous amount of activity that would occur in that area back there. Down in the basement was a very heavy area. Now, another thing that never gets covered that I always thought was very important is that Carmen left Philip institutionalized while all this was going on, and she did not let him know anything that was transpiring or happening in the house. And, finally, when they were able to get everything squared away, she went and had Philip released. And to this day, Carmen will still tell you she had a lot of guilt for not believing what he was telling her was happening in the house. So I think things like that, are so crucial and so important because, as we all know, a lot of times it's always one individual that gets targeted in a home and the other people don't experience anything. So it's a very common thing.
Well, let me. I want to ask you this. I'm sorry, Brian.
No, sorry.
Now I know that you and I had discussed about your experience on the stairs, and that made you leave for a little while. Now, and I know you've talked about that experience quite a bit, and I'm sure folks already know what that is. What I would like to know is that did your uncle come to talk to you to come back, and what did he say to you, if you could share it?
Actually, no. He kept calling. The family kept calling. I wasn't talking to anybody. I just wouldn't answer the phone. And as Pete will tell you, that's not an unusual thing even today. But, again, finally there was Bishop Robert McKenna. He's a traditional priest, and Ed had reached out to him and asked him to give me a call because he knew me pretty good. And Ed knew I wouldn't refuse to get on the phone with him and just talk to Bishop about everything that occurred, everything that happened. And I told him at that point, I'm done. I'm just done with doing this stuff. And he goes, well, then you're basically letting it win. And I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, its intent and purpose was to scare you so that you would get out of doing this and you wouldn't help people. Are you going to let it win? And I remember saying to him, Bish, you had to put it that way, didn't you? And, he was right, and that's when the decision was made that I had gone back into the house at that point in time.
Well, what were some of your concerns that you were thinking about not doing this anymore after
it was getting too it was getting too close.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, again at that point in time, we're going 30. That's 30 years ago now.
Right.
The kids were small, and I remember being concerned about so many different things and things that were occurring, and I didn't know till years later when someone was interviewing my wife, and she said, I remember the whole thing. She said he didn't talk about it or anything. She said, but he would shake. She said at nighttime he would just shake, and I was dumbfounded because she never brought that up to me, but till years later when we were sitting talking about it after the interview, and I realized how profound and how much that particular situation has affected me, at that point in time. Jack, I can always remember so many different things when I look back at it. I was very fortunate where things occur and things happen, and I've always been able to block things out. Okay. And I've always been told that that's something that's to my benefit, that I'm able to do that, and to just put that darkness and compartmentalize it and just put it on the back burner, so to speak. And even today, I still, I do the same thing when things occur and things happen. When dealing with cases, I can just take that step back and go, okay, I have to separate that from what is happening and what is occurring, because that is a key factor on how it affects you.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So, when did you start the Paranormal and Demonology Research Society, and can you tell us a little bit about it?
It was 1998, I believed. I formed the actual group, put the page up, and had a lot of members in it and different people, and worked over the years just building it up, and I don't know. To me, I just go out, work on cases, do a lot of different things, and get involved with it. I think more so today than even so much in the past, that I work on so many cases and get involved with so many things that I just move on to the next chapter or the next situation or something that I have to get involved with or something that I have to deal with.
Gotcha. So you're considered one of the foremost authorities on demons and demonic objects in the country. How exactly did you get started in that?
Well, it was just with the fascination, I think, more of trying to understand things. Now, even though I grew up being around, Ed and Lorraine, Ed's mom lived with us. We used to look forward, to him always coming over and telling us ghost stories. Me and my cousins would sit around and listen to him. So, it was always very fascinating. But at 16, when my grandmother passed away, I had a sighting of my grandfather, and that's what made me start to think about, the different stories and the different things that tied in. And I remember telling Ed the story about it, and he goes, "You never believed all the things we would tell you about and everything?" I go, "No." So, I always understand the fact that, you comprehend and you understand from people's point of views. If they've never seen something or witnessed something, it's very difficult to understand the whole supernatural realm. And that's what got me going. And then, over the course of the years, continuously, my mom would make family dishes. I would run them up. They only lived 20 minutes north of where we lived. And just drop food off. And sometimes I'd end up going with them out on cases or going to do interviews, would meet people over there. And it just started building over the course of years with some of that stuff. And just witnessing it. Never really talked too much about it. But then when I was in my 20s, that's when I was very interested in the demonology end of it, wanting to know, are these things real? Do they occur? And at that point, that's when I had the opportunity, to witness different clearings and witnessing, rabbis, ministers, priests, shaman, medicine man, you name it. And a lot of times I'd have that opportunity to go with them to see and watch things. And that's what really piqued my interest, because then I said to myself, so many different denominations, so many belief systems believe that these things occur and happen, and that's what really propelled me to really get deeper involved with more of it and to try and comprehend and understand some of it.
Now, you just mentioned something about seeing the different, I guess, religions that are involved with all of it. How do you feel religion plays a part in the cases? And what I mean by that is the different religions. Do you have to approach them differently depending on which religion you're dealing with the client?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, today we're in 2020, we live in a different world than we did even 10 years ago. A lot of people just aren't religious, and they don't follow, whatever religion they were born into or anything. So, again, it's a different world to comprehend and understand it. But, having that opportunity to watch the different religions, and I have said this for many, many years, when I've ever seen rabbis, Buddhists, and shaman do things, it's so intense and so strong on their deliverance of what they're doing. It's just mind-blowing.
John, I'm going to have to cut you off here for a minute because we need to take a commercial break.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you on the other side.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
And we're back, everybody. We are joined by Johnny Zaffis, and we're just thrilled by it. So, we were talking about the difference between religions in dealing with cases. And one of the things that I've noticed nowadays is that you have people, especially like on Facebook, which sometimes drives me crazy, people talking about the cases they're dealing with and going into, say, like a Jewish home and using Christian rituals to try and deal with what they call demons. And I have to wonder, how effective could that possibly be? Now, I know you know a lot more about this than I do, Mr. Zaffis. So can you kind of give us a little heads up on that?
Well, again, I'm Christian, and I go into, a lot of different homes and their belief systems. Naturally, I'm always going to go by what I believe in and how I practice. So sometimes going in and doing prayers or doing different things is mainly for the individual that is doing that. But I do believe very strongly that it is something that needs to be, addressed before you get into an investigation. It should be talked about with the family or the individual, what their belief systems are, what they practice, because that is part of the healing process for an individual to be able to move forward. So again, if you're dealing with Judaism, they have to follow through with how they perceive what they believe in, because as we know in Judaism, they don't necessarily believe in devils and demons, so to speak. So again, they look at it differently from a lot of the other religions. So again, it's not just Judaism that doesn't believe in that. There's others. But anyhow, it depends on so many circumstances to be taken into place. I do not think that individuals should just go into a location and automatically, just start, going into what they're believing. I don't believe people should immediately go in and start smudging and doing different things. It's important and a very key element with, trying to get things to subside on some of these cases. And those are important elements and information that you need as, you get involved with a case.
Yeah, the one size fits all has always kind of bothered me a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, again, to me, I never look at anything from a perspective of just looking at, okay, we're going from Christianity, whatever the belief system is, it's the power in what a person believes in, and it's the power that helps the healing process to go into place to, be able to move forward. That's a very, very key element with a lot of this. And today, again, I see a lot of things, just like everybody else does, and I just sit and cringe because everybody's out there investigating, everybody's a demonologist, everybody does all these different things, and I'm just like, well, a heck of a lot braver than I am with some of these situations.
Well, after these hundreds of cases that you've done over the years, what are some of the most memorable that you had, and what are some of the ones that you might even consider dangerous?
Well, again, when dealing with the demonology and dealing with the negative work, I view that differently than dealing with, cases that intertwine with human spirit.
Okay.
I mean, again, so many of the cases that, we deal with, I believe, wholeheartedly, it's more human spirit than it is something on a negative or a demonic level. They're far and few in between. So you have to be guarded and you have to be careful, when moving forward. I think, on both specters, on both ends of it, just, bringing closure for human spirit, or to be able to get human spirit to finally, have some closure, and that they're able to move on, is a very key and important element. And, there's one that comes to mind. You just made me think of one. I was on a campus lecturing, and it was a brand new building they had put up, and We were in there doing an investigation. There was no hauntings, no nothing that took place, but there was a little boy that communicated. He was killed in a fire in a barn, and he was looking for his family, and he couldn't find his family. And I very, very rarely will sit or even go into that type of circumstance to help a spirit to cross over. But at that point, there was like 15 of us, and I explained to everybody how you do that. And we had a loud thump and noises and a breeze that went right through that building, and that little boy was able to cross over. And I never seen so many people sit there and cry over the whole situation.
Wow.
So again, on a human spirit level, with dealing with a case like that, is things like that I just never forget. It was impromptu. There was no reason for it, but it transpired, and we were able to help that spirit. So to me, that is a beautiful type of situation. And again, when dealing with it on the other end of it, I mean, there even to this day, when getting involved with anything, on a negative level, my guard remains very high. It always will, as long as I continue to do this work. Because to me, when the day comes when you're completely comfortable with dealing with the negative cases, there's something wrong. There's something right then and there, excuse me, that tells me, that, when you're that comfortable with something like that, it's time to really check on, what's happening and what is going on. So therefore, anybody that tells me they don't fear it and they're not worried about it, I'm very uncomfortable with those situations, and I'm uncomfortable with those people when they're like that.
Have you ever had something like that happen, that you were second guessing yourself or felt comfortable and had something happen to you that made you reevaluate anything?
Oh, continuously, even to this day.
Really?
Again, we're all learning. We still can. So many of my views have changed over the past 40, some odd years of being involved with this, because that's how we evolve. That's how we learn and how we move forward. So, again, getting involved with certain things, sometimes, after a situation's done or something, do I take that step back and go, gee, I kind of wish I did something a little bit differently, or, gee, I didn't check thorough enough with a couple of aspects of things. That's common. That to me, when the day comes that I say no, that there aren't things that I don't second guess, then well, got to be careful, because there's too much that we don't know.
Absolutely.
Well, you had mentioned that you have changed your views over the years. What are some of the views that you've changed?
Well, I used to be very firm in the belief system that when we dealt with poltergeist cases, or we dealt with people getting scratched or pushed or something, that we were dealing with something on a negative level. When it comes into human spirit, if they were nasty in life and abusive and things like that, they're going to be like that as a ghost. Now, with poltergeist cases, to me, I still even find them fascinating to this day. To witness and see things like that is just phenomenal. But I don't necessarily always think that we have something negative occurring. It's psychic kinetic energy that's building up, and these certain individuals learn to tap into it and get things to break, get things to move. And you could go in, you could bring the Pope in there, and it ain't going to do any good. So,
that's true.
It has to run its course, and then, you could bring closure to that case. So, I mean, that's just, when you look at the big picture, to me, that's important, that you're able to look at that, because, again, with poltergeist cases, I always refer to them now as psychic kinetic energy. Is there a possibility we got something else twisted in with there, that could be causing some of the other elements? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, if you don't mind, I want to backtrack just a little bit. You had mentioned when we were talking earlier how it seems like everybody today wants to call themselves a demonologist, and that every single case nowadays seems to involve a demon, when, like you were saying, it's most likely just a ghost who just is mean. For those who just automatically assume demonic, what would you tell them and what should they look for to determine whether it's demonic or whether it's just a butthead ghost?
Well, just the fact of investigating, talking to people, finding out, history, finding out, a lot of the different elements that could be tying in with the case. It's a very difficult thing to tell a person whether, just randomly, it's not demonic by somebody telling me something.
Right.
So, I'm guarded with a lot of that. I think the biggest thing I get the biggest kick out of is hearing from people I've never worked with, never heard of, calling and asking me for the nearest exorcist in their state so they can call them to come over and do an exorcism. No, it doesn't go that way.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how common that is now. And I'll go, no. I said, I don't know the family. I don't know you. I don't know anything you're talking about. No, I'm not giving out 911 dial an exorcist. That's not how I operate.
Yeah.
So again, it's the nature of it, especially today, because you talk about Casper the Ghost, nobody wants to listen. You talk about a demon, everybody wants to hear about it.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that has to do with television shows, unfortunately.
And it's got a lot to do with a lot of things, to be honest with you. I mean, not just the TV shows, the movies, there's just a lot that ties in with it. It's the fascination of the unknown, and especially with any elements that tie in with the things on the darker side, because again, at the end of the day, what people want is they want proof that these things exist and that they happen. And it's just people are more apt to get involved with things and leave themselves open and vulnerable to a lot of this stuff. And then again, it's just one of those things that, gee, I didn't think it was real. And again, I hear that all the time from a lot of people. I didn't think it was going to happen. And I'm like, well, now you know. But what scares me more than anything is a lot of times they'll jump right back in again because they want even more things to happen.
Right.
So, again, that's the nature of it today.
You had mentioned, about TV shows. And, of course, you have Haunted Collector that you were on for a few years. What made you decide to do the show? What was your most memorable case? And how did you start your museum?
Well, the museum started many, many years ago, and it really wasn't a museum. I just, I actually was with Ed and Lorraine, and they were doing an investigation. A woman had collect these little collectible statues. She bought one, added it to her collection. It was moving around. She was freaked out, so Ed and Lorraine had removed it. And I was in the back seat of the car. Ed threw it into the back seat of the car. He goes, "You want that, kid?" And I'm like, what am I going to do with this, right? But you got to remember that was back in the time framing. We didn't have computers. We didn't have cell phones or anything. So naturally that piqued my interest, and I just started picking up books and just started to read about a lot of the haunted items and cursed items and went, there's really something to all that. And that's what really got me more involved with it than I would honestly say anything else. And again, Haunted Collector, how that came about was I thought it was super cool, super interesting because it was something different.
Yeah.
And people would continuously say, well, every case you do, you find a haunted item. Hello, it's Haunted Collector. And we're not going to go in and do an exorcism case on Haunted Collector. No. It's just not what it was structured about. It was structured around if the possibilities were there that they had an item that had something attached to it and what we could do to possibly help them either by removing it or binding it or doing a lot of the different things that needed to be done over the item. So that's how Haunted Collector came about. And gee, look today. Now we got 99 paranormal museums out there and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of the things you have in your collection that are of special note?
It's always a tough question for me to answer that because there's so many different things that represent it's hard, you know, and it's something I should be able to answer 1, 2, 3. But I think just more of the items that are more on the negative level, you know, I respect the energy from a different perspective than I do from something that Grandma might be attached to. But it's hard because there's so many items that are just, you know, a part of the museum. You know, again, the running joke with me, you know, I'm 64 years old. How many 64-year-old men do you know that collect dolls? I'm probably the only old man out there that collects dolls these days. But
well, if you're continually dressing them and combing their hair, I would be worried.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, do bobbleheads count?
I don't think I have any. I know there's a couple in my office that, you know, friends of mine made that look like me, but no, I don't think I have any bobbleheads that are haunted.
Yeah, I may have one I might want to send you, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, well, if you sent it to you, it usually makes its way back.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, do people send you things for your collection that they believe are evil or possessed?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, you have to remember a lot of times, especially over the past several months, as many of us, you know, aren't out venturing around and getting involved with things. I mean, again, I work on cases continuously. Right now, most of my work is done by phone. So therefore, if going back and forth and somebody tells me they think they have an issue, and I tell them, well, go put it in your garage or something, you know, get it out of the house. And a lot of times people don't even want to do that. They just want to pack it up and send it off. So, again, you never know. You just never know what's going to end up on my front porch.
How do you determine if something is haunted?
Well, again, a lot of times, you know, if you get EVPs near an item, or, you know, you get hot, cold spots, or, you know, different things, you know, can associate with an item. Now, an item cannot be possessed, but it can have energy attached to it. You know, again, too, the simple fact with some of these situations where people tell me, you know, gee, I brought this doll into the house, and this is when everything basically had started, and now that I think about it, yep, it was just, you know, those are key things that I look at a lot of times. And it depends on what an individual wants to do, how they want to handle it, to be able to move forward.
So how do you handle things within your collection with and not have all of these items that possibly have an attachment? How do you deal with them while they're in your collection?
There's continuous bindings, rituals, prayers, a lot of different things that are done over the museum. Now, the funny thing is, everybody said, gee, you know, being confined right at this point in time, I would think, you know, that you'd have a lot of activity. Believe it or not, I very seldomly go into the museum at this point in time. You know, my office and stuff is on the upper level of the barn, so I just come in right off the back of the house into the barn. But, you know, again, that is continuously done over the past several months. There really hasn't been anything, you know, going on that I've been too concerned about, or I haven't paid attention to any activity or anything. So, but there is a set way of doing it. Of, you know, doing things with the items before I do actually put them into the museum. There's a smaller barn where I have a lot of the things that are done with the bindings and the rituals and things over it before I actually bring them into the big barn.
Have you ever brought a piece in that activated anything in your museum that you did have activity that lasted for a little while?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I've had people tell me that, you know, over the course of years when they're, you know, walking around, especially gifted people, and they would say, geez, you know, I feel something over here, or this feels different, blah, 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 and I'll go, gee, you know, I didn't even say anything to you about it, and there's a new item that was placed in that area. So a lot of times I'll pay attention when people say things like that. But, knock on wood, so far I haven't had anything major ever happen in the barn yet.
Yeah, I think Pete, hold on a minute. I think
go
I'd be afraid to have a museum like that. It'd be like a paranormal time bomb. Anyway, we have to take another break now, so we'll take this back up on the other side.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... nope. That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
All right, we're back with the Full Spectrum Project, and we've been speaking with Johnny Zaffis. So we were talking about your museum. So I hope you don't mind, but I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and talk about something from your aunt and uncle's museum.
Okay.
With the movie Annabelle and the whole thing surrounding it, and the fact that now people think that Annabelle is this extremely hideous, ugly doll that isn't even close to the real Annabelle. What are your thoughts on what they did to the doll with it in the movie?
I don't know what the reasoning was. I don't know if it had to do with trademark and copyright. One of the scenarios I heard is that they felt the original Annabelle doll wasn't creepy enough. It had to be a creepy doll.
Right.
But,
okay.
You know,
Trust me, she's creepy.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, I have one over here that somebody gave to me saying that they thought it was haunted.
You know, a lot of people have been saying that. I've dealt with several different people that had purchased a replica of the fake Annabelle doll, thinking there's stuff attached to it, and who knows? Who knows? You know, it's a hard thing to say. But I don't know. To me, I would have been more scared and more intrigued by seeing the real Annabelle doll, just for the simple fact that it looks just so innocent, doesn't look like it would ever do anything to anybody, and it's wreaked all that havoc over the course of years.
Right.
So again, but that's my opinion, and as we all know, any of us that are in the paranormal field, once Hollywood gets involved with something, it's going to change dramatically.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I have a question about Annabelle. Now and trust me, I'm not trying to be any way negative or anything. It's always been a question for me. Now, Annabelle, having been as active and as dangerous as she was reported to be, how is it that you can place her in the glass case and not have anybody else affected, being glass?
Well, the only thing I could say to you
Yeah.
at this point is the simple fact that I can remember, as far back as I can remember.
Okay.
And I'm going back a long time.
That's fine.
I do not ever recall seeing Ed or Lorraine Warren ever take that doll out of that case. I do remember. I can remember that this is clear as day, because Lorraine had that case built for Ed as a surprise. And he was gone for an entire week. She was like a little kid in a candy store. I could still remember it, her talking about it and blah, 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 blah. And she said,
it's a cool case. It's a cool case.
She said, that has to go into it. And I remember her pointing to it and referring to Annabelle. And over the course of the years, there's a billion and one times that I've just been in the museum with Ed, or been in there with Ed and Lorraine, or when they used to do classes or anything like that. I've never seen them take it out. I never seen it, be moved or anything. So again, it's a different world today. That's the best I could tell you.
Yeah, definitely is.
Like I said, I wasn't throwing darts or anything. I just wanted to know, because I never had the opportunity to ask you, first of all, and secondly, I got no clue about what they did to protect her or anybody else. So I just wanted to know.
Yep.
All right, so something along that line, about you said that you never remember Ed and Lorraine Warren taking Annabelle out of the glass case. Now, there was a Ghost Adventure show where Zach had, or somebody had brought Annabelle for the show, and I guess Zach was almost treating her like some sort of a toy or something like that. And I was kind of wondering how you feel about the whole controversy that surrounded that show.
Again, I have not seen it. I've heard about it. I've had a million and one people tell me of the version of what transpired on it or whatever happened on it. So, again, I wasn't there. I don't know what transpired. I don't have, any inside info on what happened or what didn't happen. But, like I said, the only thing I could tell you is, at the end of the day, up to 2001, I never seen Ed Warren ever take that doll out of its case that was built in the museum.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate you answering that, John.
Yeah, one of the things that I get a kick out of is now, because of that show, and I guess because Zach is buying up as many haunted items, houses, and things like that, it really is amazing how many people believe that Zach actually now owns Annabelle. And that's always been kind of
that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I've just always found that kind of interesting.
I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I just don't.
Yeah. So a question kind of along the same lines. Within your own museum, do you have anything in your museum that you consider an untouchable in the same vein as Annabelle?
there's several items that I know that I have that were used in some pretty dark practices and some pretty evil things that I have in cases, again, bindings and prayers and different things that are done over them, and I don't allow people to touch, certain things. I don't like anything touched in there, actually. That's a big thing, too, because people don't quite understand why I don't have everything wide open and letting people come in and out of it. No, it's not necessarily what I'm all about and necessarily something that I would want, people having that close proximity to some of the items. So eventually down the road, that's always been my big thing, was that I always wanted to do a museum, and hopefully someday that will happen. But I would just want to make sure everything was protected in secure things, and things weren't being touched. It's about the best I could tell you.
Do you have anything in the museum that you would consider your a prized possession? And what is it? And can you give a synopsis of what it is? What happened?
Well, I think more of the things just given to me by my uncle over the course of the years. But I think, a key element of one particular item would be the little 3-inch Blessed Mother statue that came from the haunting in Connecticut. When they did the exorcism, the hands had melted off of her.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And Carmen had kept that for many, many years. And one time her and I were getting together, we were going to a campus to lecture, and she says, I have something for you. And she took it out of the bag, and I opened it up, and I went, I can't believe you kept this. You kept this all these years. And she said, I did. She goes, now put it in that barn you built on your property with all your other creepy stuff. There's a lot of different things, and people get comical. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, her and I had done 2 books together, and it was amazing. She would walk around in the museum with me, and same thing. She would ask me certain questions. And I go, no, this item, no, that item, no, this item, no, that item. And she would turn and look at me, and she goes, only women do that, John. Guys don't do that. and she would laugh. She would continuously laugh. So every time we'd go to do something, and then she would just get to the point where she goes, I will pick the items, and then you tell me the story. And I went, oh, okay.
Man, I'll tell you, when I heard that Rosemary passed, that really upset me. She was a really nice lady.
I think it upset all of us.
Literally walking encyclopedia. The woman, just again, she used to just amaze me with the amount of things she got involved with, how much work she did in this field. And she finally, right, at the end, unfortunately, when she started getting ill, she was on Ghost on Camera. I think that's the name of it. And, she was so excited about it. She kept telling me about it, and I was so happy for her. And she was excited over the fact of that, and it's a good thing. No, I miss her very much. She, to me, was just one of my idols. So, again, it's hard. It's hard because it's far and few in between when you have a friend that you can wholly trust, and vice versa. The both of us would talk to each other, and we didn't have to worry about it ending up all over the place.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that happens too much these days.
Yeah. You were talking about the fun times with Mary Ellen. So I need to ask, do you have any cases that you look back on and the case itself makes you laugh?
That makes me laugh?
Yeah, there was one of those cases where you're just kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. And it was because, we have a couple that we have done that I just look back on and it just cracks me up because of either something that didn't happen or something that did happen that was just comical. Do you have any cases that you worked on like that?
Many of them. Many of them. The one I'll give you the short and sweet of it, a very prominent doctor in Boston, Massachusetts, lived in one of the brownstones, had a wicked haunting that was breaking out. All kinds of crazy things were going on. I went, okay. So myself and two other researchers took a ride up to go investigate her home, and she said most of the activities happening down in the dungeon. When you say dungeon to me, I think of suits of armor and swords and all those other things, but unfortunately it wasn't that type of a dungeon. We were down there and everything, and there was a lot of paraphernalia up on the walls, and
oh no.
She was into dominatrix. Okay, and I love telling this story because the two guys that were with me, she kept trying to explain everything to me. Finally, she walked up behind me and she pushed me, and she goes, "Johnny, are you even paying attention to anything I'm saying?" And I looked at her and I go, "What do you do with some of this stuff?" So to this day, those two researchers, it's the first thing they say to me when they see me and they look at me. They go, "We could not get over that. You just walked around and down in that dungeon looking at those different things." And I said, "Well, you really don't even want to know what was going on in my mind when I was walking around that room."
You didn't have to give her a safe word, did you?
Do what?
A safe word?
No.
Well, listen, I know you could only be with us for an hour, so we better let you go. But Johnny, seriously, you have no idea how much we enjoyed this. I mean, seriously, I hope you'll come back at some point, because it was just fantastic talking to you and get your insights on a lot of things. So I want you to know that I definitely appreciate it.
I do too, John.
Thanks for having me on, and everybody be safe, be cautious, be guarded, wear your damn mask.
Absolutely. Hey, I've got a bunch of packages of them, so Bob and I will be having masks all next weekend.
All right, guys, take care.
Oh, listen, Johnny, again, thank you.
Thank you, John.
So much.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so now I see we are joined by Angie Mohle. So it is time for the Weird World News segment.
Hey, y'all. How are you?
So known as Angie's World.
Angie's World.
How are y'all doing?
We're doing
good.
great. And now I'm thinking about when you're going to kill Pete for using that term. So
She's going to find me first.
If y'all are willing to, see things through my eyes for a little while, then I have the name of a great psychiatrist for you.
Unfortunately, you're not the only person that suggested that to me.
Go figure.
Yeah, I know where you live, Angie. Be nice to me.
Sure.
But
I would love
Pete,
to have a visitor.
Well, I was going to say, though, Pete, she's a race car driver. She'll just hop in her car and speed away.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I also have a really big diesel pickup and a Jeep, so I may just run over you.
Run them over? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but abominables bounce, so I'm not really worried about it.
Oh, gosh. I would never run over you, Pete. I love you.
Okay.
Hey, Angie,
You're back on the Christmas card list.
I want my money back, Angie.
Yeah, about that.
It's already been appropriated. You lost it.
It has already been invested in something.
Okay.
All right. So what do you have with us or for us today?
Okay. Well, let's start with something a little spacey. Okay, so they found a potentially habitable planet like Earth, and they were able to directly image it. It's in a solar system that resembles our own. It's 300 light years away and has two giant exoplanets that are orbiting a young star much like our sun.
You don't think it's a parallel universe, do you?
Me? No.
Okay, I'm just asking.
No, I don't. And the thing is, the images I have seen of it, obviously they're not very detailed yet.
Okay.
But it's impossible to figure out what it is for someone like me looking at it. So there is an optic called the Very Large Telescope. That's its official name.
Wow, they didn't waste any science on that.
No, they didn't.
I was waiting for something like long in Latin.
They didn't have the grant money.
Oh, okay. So it's a pirate looking glass.
Yeah.
The European Southern Observatory is in the Atacama Desert in Chile, and that's where the telescope took the images of the star that's located and the planets that are located in the constellation of Musca, which is Spanish for the word fly. If you didn't know, I thought that was kind of funny.
You're making up words now.
I thought it was a Greek dish.
No, that's moussaka, dude.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you mean food? I thought you meant like a serving plate. I'm like, how in the world would you know what stoneware is called?
He keeps throwing them up against the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they keep breaking.
Yeah, I know. That's what happens when you don't throw mud.
Oh,
no comment.
Paper plates.
They're bricks.
The star and the planets are they believe they're about 17 million years old, and they believe that those planets are gas giants, meaning that they are composed primarily of gases.
You talked to my wife, didn't you?
Not recently.
Gas pockets, yes.
Oh wow.
Okay, that one didn't stick. Brian, quit writing for me.
No.
Okay.
I couldn't access the full study because, academia and elitism and, normal people don't need to read scientific papers. So I'd be interested to find out what scientists hope to learn and how they want to study it now that they have the actual direct images of it.
Okay, cool.
But I couldn't read about it in the paper. So, I'm not bitter.
No, but we're not.
No,
normal,
not at all.
So we should have had it.
On Merseyside Beach in Ainsdale, UK, a 15-foot long creature washed up on the shore.
Okay.
Since Wednesday morning, people have been speculating as to what it might be. Witnesses are saying the badly decomposed creature looks like it's a mishmash of random animals. One man said it has flippers, fur, looks like it could be giving birth, and looks kind of like a whale that had eaten a horse that had eaten a dolphin. There is no discernible head, and people suspect it got tucked underneath as it washed up. But no one has tried moving it.
Did they ever think that it might look like that because it's decomposing?
You would think. There were people who, there were a lot of witnesses that had made statements, and most of them were smart enough to approach it from upwind. One woman who had a lot to say did not. She didn't make the smart decision, and so she had really nasty things to say about it.
And I'm sure she added to the mass too.
Probably. I did see pictures of it, and it's not really from a great angle. It kind of looks like they were taken in the middle of the day in like overcast conditions, so the contrast isn't great, and it's kind of hard to tell. I don't have any theories of what it could be. At first I thought it might have been a walrus or something also, and then I realized those were rib bones, they weren't tusks. I don't know. The University of Liverpool has marine biologists that are they capital THEY. They contacted University of Liverpool marine biologists, and an official from Natural England arrived on the scene but was unable to make an ID and was unable to do anything with the animal because I guess it was just that one person, and no bystanders were willing to lend a hand. Okay, so Evil Disney strikes again. Y'all know I'm not a huge fan of Disney.
Actually, I did not know that, but I do now.
I thought we had a discussion about how evil I thought Disney is.
Not that I can remember, but then again, with my brain, who knows?
Rhode Island issued over 175 tax refund checks to its citizens on Monday. They were unfortunately signed by Mickey Mouse and Walt Disney instead of the treasurer and the controller. The state uses those signatures as placeholders in its test files, but rather than being removed, they were actually printed on the real checks that were sent out. The office promises they will have new checks printed up and reissued within a week and are voiding the checks signed by the dead guy and the cartoon mouse.
I could say so much, but I think I'm not going to.
I want an autograph.
And the last thing I've got for y'all today is a follow-up on the Forrest Fenn thing.
Cool. I was wondering, are they going to release information? Come on, tell us.
Yeah, trust me, all of us were wondering that. So I shouldn't even say a few, a minute detail has been released. Fenn was quoted as saying, "The finder understood how important some closure is for many searchers."
Okay.
So the finder agreed to reveal the treasure was found in Wyoming. Where in Wyoming, you may ask? Yeah, several other Fenn fanatics are asking the same thing because divulging only the fact that it was found somewhere in nearly 100,000 square miles of land isn't exactly helping people feel better about their possible puzzle solves.
But at least it's been narrowed down.
Well,
our call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system. 94993.
Well, that's interesting.
Now I'm just going to go, well, I already went on record as saying this, so I'm just going to reiterate that I think it was in Bridger Teton, and I think that Fenn retrieved it himself to prevent any more casualties from people looking for the treasure.
That wouldn't surprise me. Was that a poltergeist that just talked?
I think it might have been, yes.
Oh, wow. Y'all need a TV show.
Wait. No, that was a phone tergeist.
A phone tergeist. Well, I'm just happy it wasn't a dad joke.
No, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about. Although,
okay.
You know, here's something that's
Angie,
kind of weird.
Please shoot me. I opened up a box that I didn't want to open.
You do it every time. It's
no, you didn't.
It's predictable and hilarious.
No, actually, you didn't. All right. No, the only thing I was going to say, I mean, gosh, come on, guys. It's just, you know, I was thinking about it today, and I was thinking about my two boys when they were younger, and I tried to get them to play sports. It was really a bummer because, they didn't like baseball or football much, and they actually tried to get me to let them play soccer. All right.
I'm muting my mic.
I told them not. I told them not to bother with soccer because it couldn't be taken seriously because soccer was only for kicks. They didn't like that answer, but you know.
I should have muted my ear.
Can you do that?
I can with a steak knife.
You know how, like, when you watch a movie or you read a book or something and you get really emotionally invested in it and it's like a really long story, and then at the end the person's like, "Oh, and I woke up and it was all a dream." That's what just happened with that joke.
Yes. Just like in Newhart.
Why do you guys keep calling my stories jokes?
Because what I want to call them I can't say on the radio.
I'm hurt. I am just seriously hurt. And on that note,
you should be. You should be.
On that note, We are joined by our second guest, Bob Davis. Say hello, Bob.
I'm not here anymore. I went home.
That's terrible.
I was going to say, now come on, you should be used to those by now.
Uncle Bob.
I am. How is everybody?
How the hell are you, Bob?
Hey, Pete.
Hey.
Next time you think about putting him on for a co-host, call me first, and I'll tell you. You only need like him and no guests.
Hey.
You'll be set, man. You forget I've been running a radio show with him for 15 years?
Hey. You know what? You said you were signing out and going home. I think I'm signing out and going home. You guys are just mean. All right, so I was about to tell you guys that I'm really excited to have my partner on today, but now I'm not so sure.
Are. Yeah, no, you still are.
All right. So just so everybody knows, we brought Bob on to talk about his new book, Ghosts and Legends of Alcatraz. Now, the book came out.
Our new book.
The book came out last September. And so far it's been doing really good. And the Alcatraz itself, for some people who may not know, has a long history, even before it was a prison, of strange and weird occurrences other than just the hauntings that are involved with the prison itself today.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually let you cover the ancient history.
Well, I mean, if we get
you just know that stuff better.
But here's the thing that's really kind of cool about Bob is his first paranormal experience happened on Alcatraz when he was 13 years old, and that one incident caused him for the rest of his life to be into the paranormal. So why don't you explain to our listeners, what happened to you back then and when you were 13 years old?
Sure. I'm sure some people have heard it, but a lot of you probably haven't. But in a nutshell, like I said, Brian said, I was 13. We were just there for a day tour. Mm-hmm. And before we ever even, you've been out there, right, Pete?
Yeah.
Have you guys?
Yeah, I have. My wife and I went out there on our honeymoon.
Oh, so you both done? Okay, good. So how the big hill goes up, turns and goes up. And so even before I'd gone up the first part of the hill, we were stopping, we were talking. There's a picture in the book of me standing there talking to my brother and his now wife. And I had no belief in anything paranormal, God, spiritual, nothing at all. In fact, I would laugh at you and call you stupid if you said you believed in it. Now, on my way back down that road, my whole life had changed.
Things were a bit different.
It was totally different, And the first book that I saw when we got back to San Francisco, we walked by a bookstore, and in the window was something really similar to our first book, which is, Hollywood's historic haunts. California's historic haunts. And so I asked my mom if I could go in and get it, and she's like, "Why do you want to buy that stupid book and read about that crazy stuff?" And finally she went, "Okay, go ahead and get it." So I did, and I went and I got it. And when I got back to the hotel, I opened the book up, and the first thing I opened up to was cell 14D. Well, we can get to cell 14D a little bit later, but that is the cell that changed my life. So, and that was when I was 13. So I've been trying to figure out what the heck all that was about all these years. So, yeah. Yeah,
and cell 14D is considered probably the most haunted cell in the prison, if not one of or the most haunted place in Alcatraz. So, what happened to you in the cell, Bob?
Okay.
Well, first they didn't arrest you for robbing anything, did they? They didn't throw you in there. They didn't throw you in the cell for being bad, did they?
They should have. No, they didn't. But back in those days, they used to actually, the cells would open and close. Now they're been welded shut, so they can't do
welded open, unfortunately.
I mean, welded open.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's okay.
So, and this may be the reason why, I don't know, but so the park ranger asked the group that I was with, does anybody want to volunteer to go into cell 14D and see what it was like for the prisoners when they were put in there? And they would be put in these cells. There's Brian and me are still at dispute over how many cells there are. He says there's 5. I say there's 6. I counted 6. But anyway, no matter. Cell 14D is the last one on the row. And the 5 or 6 cells, whichever number it is, they're just big steel boxes. And they're welded all the way around the corners. And there's no toilet. There's just a hole in the ground. And that's what you would use for the toilet. Yeah, no beds, nothing, just a concrete floor. And then there's a double door. There's a barred door and a big solid steel door. So when they're both closed, it's pitch black in there.
So would they consider that like the hole?
They would consider that for the worst of the worst, I think.
Well, like solitary?
That was definitely solitary. And
solitary.
It was so bad that the only thing that the prisoner was allowed in there was underwear. They weren't even allowed to have their prison clothes, just underwear. And it was facing the windward side of the island, so it was cold.
Yeah,
beautiful.
You've probably been in 14D, haven't you? Or you've been by it. It's just so freezing. I mean, I can't even imagine. That was
I'm sure I was. I can't remember at this point.
Yeah, if you were ever out there, even in the daytime, if you go in one of those cells that's like one of those maximum security, since they're such thick steel, they're extra cold. I
remember having gone into one and I felt a high anxiety. I don't know, maybe that was the one.
Probably.
It could be. That I swear there's so much activity around there. It's not even funny. And there's places in there that we found that are really haunted that we kind of keep to ourselves, because nobody else seems to know about them. So,
yeah.
But there's some other really good haunted locations there as well.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so what happened was he asked if anybody would volunteer, and me being, young and stupid and also thinking I was brave, waved my hand and said, yeah, I'll go in. And so he walked me and stood me in the back left corner. And then he said, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And so I turned around and I faced the doors, and then he walked out and he shut them both and blocked them. And a few minutes later, he yells in, he goes, you still okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. As soon as I said, yeah, I'm fine, and I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but it was like a big grab that was so loud on my shoulder. It was just like a human grabbed it really hard. And at the same, seconds after that, or at virtually the same time, this gruff voice goes, you're mine, like that. And a 13-year-old boy in a jail cell does not want to hear that.
No. Yeah. Well, nobody does. I mean, who would?
Good point. Yeah. So I ran.
You sure it wasn't Brian?
It wasn't Brian. I didn't know Brian.
You sure?
Back then,
Okay.
I may have, but
I mean, I would put money on it. I mean, he hangs out in weird places. From when I'm
actually, it might
scare little kids.
I was going to say, actually, it might have been Wyatt. So
might have been.
That's who I'd put my blame on, Wyatt.
Yeah. No, he's the evil spirit that roams the island.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, man, I was at those doors instantly and banging and screaming, and when the ranger opened the door, and I come shooting out of there like a rocket, everybody's like, what happened? What's wrong? And I'm like, nothing. I just didn't like it in there after all. I got kind of uneasy and wanted out, and I didn't tell anybody, not even my family or friends or anybody, till I was
probably wouldn't
in
either.
my late 20s. Yeah. And because I didn't know what to say, and now it's like, here you don't believe, and then all of a sudden you're face to face with it, basically, locked in the jail cell.
Yeah.
It was a real eye opener.
Well, here's one of the things that I found kind of interesting. I mean, I've heard that story a few times, but during research for the Alcatraz book, are you guys? I know you are, Bob, but are you guys familiar with Don Staggs? Pete?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't recall.
Okay, well, he's fairly well known in the paranormal community, at least out here. He does speaking engagements and things like that.
Okay.
He had sent a story to be included in the Alcatraz book, and as we're reading the story, Bob's like, "Dude, this is my story." Don had almost the exact same experience happen to him in cell 14D. I mean,
really?
right down to having his shoulder grabbed and hearing your mind. I mean, it was really bizarre. But that happened, if I remember right, Bob, didn't what happened to Don happen like 5 or so years later than when you had yours happen?
Yeah, something like that. And then it also happened to Max Moya, almost the exact same thing.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm not sure. It was right around the same time because it might have been a little bit later than me because I think I'm a hair older than Max. I don't know how old Max is, but he described his experience exactly like what happened to me. And then I have another friend, Laura Lee, who's on Facebook, and her daughter went to Alcatraz. Same exact thing happened to her. And so I've heard that story right from the horse's mouth, so to speak, at least 3 or 4 times. 4 times.
Do you have any idea who it could be?
Well, there's a story. Now, no one knows for sure who the spirit might be. The main theory, and for some reason his name is slipping my brain right now.
Well, that's the age.
Yeah, that is the age. Anyway, it's one of the prisoners who was part of. There was a movie called In Cold Blood that was about Rufus McCain. A lot of people think that it's Rufus McCain, and like I said, there was a movie called In Cold Blood that starred Kevin Bacon that was about that. Yeah.
Oh no, that was Murder in the First.
Yeah, that's what. What did I say?
In Cold Blood. That was Truman Capote.
Yeah, you said the one
okay. Sorry, I got it mixed up. My bad.
That guy's name? It drives me nuts now.
But
that's
anyway,
okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
It's driving me nuts too.
Yeah. So anyway, that movie's about Rufus and everything that happened. But that's who a lot of people think is the spirit in 14D because he spent so much time there. However, there is a story that goes back into the 1930s, 40s about a prisoner who was put into the cell, and about an hour or so after he was in the cell started screaming to be let out because there was something in there with him that was trying to kill him. Now, the guards just sort of figured that he was just, trying to get out of the cell and making a scene so they would let him out. And then he finally quieted down. The next morning, they opened up the cell to find him strangled to death. Wow. Now, the day after that happened, they were doing their morning prisoner count and found that there was one too many prisoners. Now, as they looked, it was the prisoner who had been found dead the morning before, and as they watched, he just sort of faded from view. So
he was lined up with everybody else.
But he was lined up with everybody else, right?
Even though he was already dead.
So
that's one of my favorite stories.
That's true.
Now, depending on which story you believe, if you believe the latter, that means that there was something in that cell long before the first prisoner died in there or had any kind of paranormal experience in there, or, so you kind of have to decide which one you want to believe. Either
which time period you want to draw from for you.
Yeah, exactly.
To put in there because
well,
it's been so many different things over the years. that, it could be Native Americans, it could be Spaniards, it could be, Civil
Right.
War,
Yeah.
guys. I mean, it's just unreal.
Well, dealing with place memory, I mean, that's a possibility that it could have been anything. Wow. Okay. Yeah, because there was so much stuff that happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
But I don't know of a residual haunting having ever killed anybody. So it would definitely have to be intelligent.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And how many residual hauntings grab a 13-year-old boy by the shoulder and whisper your mind?
Yeah, that definitely was not residual. I don't think. Although, I mean, who knows what all is entailed? I mean, maybe residuals can do that, and we just haven't figured it out yet. I don't know.
Maybe
because so many people, that have had the same thing happen. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
that is a part of residual haunting, and we haven't ever really explored it. And maybe we need to. But whatever it was, it really, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So getting back to the hauntings, Bob and I were lucky enough to spend 2 nights on Alcatraz. I believe the first was in 2009, and then the second was the following year in 2010. So if I remember right, we didn't really have a whole lot of activity the second year. And a lot of that had to do with Ranger John, who just hated paranormal investigators. And he just
loved running them around, trying to wear them out so they'd go to sleep early.
Yeah, I mean, that was really funny. He takes us onto the roof of the prison, and he's walking us around going, so this is the roof. We don't have much happening here, but, we're going, okay, why are we here? It was just, it was really kind of amusing in a sad sort of way. But
it was, but then it turned out to be cool because that's where the England brothers, went across and shimmied down the side of the building. So, not many people get to get up there. So it turned out it was a lucky break after all, I guess.
Yeah. And anybody that wants to see Ranger John, just watch any of the Alcatraz documentaries, and he's usually the ranger they interview. But the first night, the first night we were there, we had some of the most amazing paranormal incidences. You want to explain some of those, Bob?
Well, yeah, that first year we went when it was Brian, me, Ash, and Laurel, who were our other team members at the time. Ash has since passed on, and you probably know. And Laurel moved on her own direction. But at that time, it was the 4 of us out there. And it just seemed like we tend to go, people call us planet antisocial, because we tend to disappear from the rest of the groups, and it's because we really want to do investigating. We don't want to, we're not there to socialize as much, although we will, and we're happy to. But, we also like to get our investigation time in too, since it's such a rarity.
And my God, it was Alcatraz.
That's what I mean. It's such a rarity to get out there and spend the night on there. So we didn't want to wait.
Dude, you spent the night there?
Yeah, we slept there.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah. All right. Well, we did
until 14D.
Yeah, but we didn't actually sleep either time we were there.
We sat there and watched. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I remember being there, and I remember having gone down into the showers and gotten really, really weirded out in there. There was something there. My wife and I kind of got in there. We looked at each other going, this ain't right. And then we left. Did you all ever experience anything there?
Well, I've always had a weird feeling in there. Isn't that where they used to stick Al Capone to play his banjo, Brian?
Yeah, that and supposedly Al Capone is still heard playing his was it a banjo?
Banjo.
Yeah,
it was a banjo.
He's still sometimes heard playing the banjo down there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, so that may be you might have been feeling Scarface. I don't know.
Yeah, and believe it or not, the reason that he would do that is after he was shivved in Alcatraz, he was scared for his life, and he was also losing his mind due to syphilis.
Right.
But he would actually go down there to practice the banjo because he was part of the Alcatraz prisoner band.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, I was always trained if I heard banjos, I was to run the other way.
Me too.
all right, you know what? Now,
good one.
Now
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Now I got
Brian runs towards them.
That doesn't surprise me, Bob. That doesn't surprise me.
I was going to say, now I got to figure out how to come up with the money to get a banjo.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, I'll get you. We'll get you one.
Ah, cool.
Well, why don't you get a Kermit costume and then play It Ain't Easy Being Green?
Wait, what was that?
Bob,
I missed it.
Bob,
I don't know if it's worth repeating, but I told him to get a Kermit costume and play It Ain't Easy Being Green on his banjo.
Oh, no, it's worth it.
Hey,
I want to
Bob,
see that.
Bob.
Yeah, no.
You sure do have a pretty mouth.
Oh God, I'm hanging up now. If this wasn't an actual show,
This wasn't part of the contract. I apologize, Bob.
That's all right. I know it's not your fault. I can't control him either.
I've given up. Given up.
Yeah, I think everybody's given up at this point. If you don't give up after this long, it was a great place. And then there's another active place that was really cool. And when you're walking up the very first part of the uphill, and there's that big arch and the cannon is in that archway area.
Yes.
Does that ring a bell? Okay, yes. If you go look straight across from the room the cannon's in, there's a room on the other side that's empty. It's just like a little doorway. And if you go in there and you look at the floor, there's like a little square barred off area. And if you look down in there, it goes way the heck down in there. Well, that was the very first part of the original part of the prison that was ever used for a prison. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah.
Did I get that basically right?
You got that completely right.
No. All right, I get a star. So I guess it was Ash, Laurel, Brian, and I. We just decided. I don't know if we decided hey, let's just go check some other areas out outside or what. But it wasn't.
Yeah,
really
we right, and that's exactly why so many people had spread out into the prison itself. We decided to go ahead and find another location to see, if there were any spirits there.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, yeah. So we get down there and we go in that little room, and I don't even know what made us. Because at the time, am I correct? You didn't know what that was the original.
I had no idea.
Right. So I don't know what made us start yelling frigging questions down there, but we started getting audible answers back and EVPs as well. Yeah. And one of them was a female, and she was really clear. And it was strange because Laurel, who was on our team at the time and was married to Ash, she would say something. She'd go, what was it she said, Brian?
I can't remember because there was so much.
I hate getting old. Anyway, it was something like, if there's anybody down there, can you talk to me? Or, something simple like that.
Right.
And right after, it tails in right as at the end of what Laurel is saying, and you hear another female voice go, "Oh my," or something like that.
Well, okay, really... so the first we hear what?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she goes, "Is anybody down there?" And she goes, "What?" Like that. It almost sounded like Laurel's voice, but it overlapped too much onto Laurel's voice for it to possibly be Laurel.
Right.
Yeah. So then the second time,
I was going to say, and I remember when we heard that, you go, hey, check and see if there's a girl outside. And so I went out to look, and there was nobody anywhere near there.
No, we were starting to pretty soon. We were running all over the place looking for people. And the other lucky thing was it wasn't the time of year where the seagulls, are there for mating. So you didn't have all that seagull noise, in the background. So it was really quiet, which is pretty darn unusual and very lucky. So we didn't have any of that interference. And so we got some pretty good EVPs of this voice, a couple of times. I think we got her the following year, didn't we, Brian?
Yeah. Okay, we did. Okay, so the first year,
Brian was drinking.
Hey, watch it. The three EVPs we got from the first year was her initially saying, with this in a surprised voice, "What?" And then Laurel continued after that to, ask, if who you are, things like that. And we hear her go, "Oh my God!" Like she couldn't believe there was somebody down there trying to communicate with her. Right.
Yeah.
And so the next year we decided.
Hey, Brian.
Yes?
I need to stop you for a second. We need to pause for a break.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
As long as it's
about us.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
Several U.S. presidents are on record talking about the UFO mystery.
Yeah, Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan both had UFO sightings of their own, but the current presidential campaign might be the first in which UFO disclosure has been championed by a major party candidate.
DIA, CIA, it moves around, is operating a program to train psychic spies to spy and use their powers against Russia. John Ronson writes about this in The Men Who Stare at Goats.
The first known sighting of a ghost took place right after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the late 1860s during the administration of Ulysses Grant.
Project Paperclip, Clinton releases it all in 1998.
Possibly the unequal cooling of its surface.
I say, do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial.
It's a place where UFO hunters and scientists gather to examine paranormal activity in the region.
Some of the documents, this is bringing Nazi scientists into the United States to work here. So we fought against the Nazis, and it's not, this again is not a revelation. As early as 1947, 1946, we knew some of this, right?
On the paranormal, will we see U.S. President Barack Obama's foreign policy go intergalactic in a quest for gold stolen by aliens? We'll tell you at least how the White House responded to claims the chief executive has been teleporting to Mars. But let's get to today's Capitol account.
UFOs, hauntings, psychic abilities, conspiracy, ESP, cryptozoology. There are many things that remain unexplained in the inexplicable world around us, and we're talking about them here, looking for answers on WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama. The truth is out there.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 23 minutes after the hour.
All right, folks, we're back with the Full Spectrum Project, and we're joined by Bob Davis, and we are talking about the extremely haunted Alcatraz Island and our new book, Ghosts and Legends of Alcatraz. So I think when we went to the break, we were talking about the Sally Port near the bottom of Alcatraz, and how the first year we caught the EVP of a woman. And then the second year, we caught the same woman talking. However, because Bob, Ash, and Laurel were making fun of yours truly, I was trying to set up a video camera, and I was
which they should have made fun of you, by the way.
Yeah, quiet.
You have to once in a while.
So, like I said, I was trying to set up a video camera in one corner of this little room, and Bob, Ash, and Laurel were in the opposite corner near the hole in the floor that led down to the original holding cell. And they kept looking over at me and going, "Come on, hurry up, Brian Buell." And as a reference to Ryan Buell, who has since, had his anal wax and been kind of
I didn't say any of it.
Drummed out of the paranormal for being a thief. Well, so they kept calling me Brian Buell. We find out later that we get an EVP of this same woman saying, "Who's Brian?"
Yeah, she says it really clear and loud.
Yeah. I mean, we literally get some of the clearest EVPs that, well, at least for me, that I have ever recorded were on Alcatraz. It was just incredible.
Yeah, same here. Alcatraz and the Queen Mary are both, I've been my best places that I there's been a few other places where I got, some good ones once in a while, and then other times it'd be dead for a long time, and they get more good ones, several months later. But, for regularity, Alcatraz and the Queen Mary seem to be really good.
Kind of at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Now, Bob, there was one incident that happened to us the first year we were there on Alcatraz, up in one of the the medical ward isolation rooms. Do you want to explain that one?
You're talking about in the isolation room? You mean the very back room?
The very back room where with the chairs.
Yeah, I can. Okay, so we're upstairs on the second floor in the medical ward, and there's like a bunch of cells that line each side of this big hallway, and then at the end of the hallway, there's just a big doorway, and you go in there, and it's a big room. And then to the left, there's, I don't know how many, maybe 5 or 6 cells that are down that way too, maybe more. And there was a bunch of chairs there, so we were all like, "Hey, you guys want to, pull over some chairs and, do an EVP session or something?" So we all did. We pulled chairs over right out in the middle of the big room, and it was huge, open space. And so we're sitting there, and we're, asking the standard questions, whatever we can think of that might pertain to whoever would be in there. And I don't know why, but something just made me think, I want to go down and see what's down where those cells are. So I just said, "I'll be right back, just excuse me, I'll be right back." And I went down that way. I got to the very end cell, and I've never had this happen before or since, but something made me feel really angry. And just about that time, I hear some commotion down at the other end where they're at. And I come down there, and I don't remember what they were talking about or doing, but I started yelling at them. And they're like, "Whoa, what's wrong with you, dude?" And they finally talked me down, and we settled back into our EVP session, And what was it that Ash said? If you want us to leave, no, what was it?
No. Actually, you said that. We weren't really getting anything, And so finally, you said if
you want us to leave, just tell us.
Yeah, just tell us to get out is what you said.
Yeah. And it did. It went, get out like that.
Well,
really
actually, okay. So this is what happened. Now, Ash was not a small man. I think at the time he was, what would you say, maybe 310 pounds, give or take, at that time?
Something like that. None of us were small men back then.
Right. None of us. Yeah. We liked our food. But so we were sitting in these folding metal chairs. Now, right after Bob had said, if you don't want us here, we'll get out. Just tell us to get out. And right when that happened, all of a sudden, Ash's chair goes sliding back probably, about 3 feet, give or take?
I think even more than that, man. I mean, it went, how those metal chairs sound on asphalt. And it's like, on that concrete, I mean, it's like, it's just loud. Yeah, it was, especially in an empty room like that.
Exactly. It was just, we're all just sitting there staring at him. The chair's sliding back. It slams into a wall. He gets knocked over.
Wall, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, let me stop you for 1 second. I just want to remind everybody that we're listening to WBHM-DB radio in Birmingham, Alabama. Go ahead.
All right. So as the chair hits the wall, we hear this, and it was really a weird guttural voice, but we just hear this, "Get out," almost like something you would hear on a Hollywood movie. It was just really kind of like, and guess what we did?
That, and you heard Ashley losing his friggin' oxygen rapidly.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as he hit that wall, he just kind of went like that,
But
can you imagine? Hard.
Can you guys figure out what we did at that point? Pete,
you awake?
Well,
I'm here. I'm here. I'm just listening to my voice, and I'm enjoying it.
Oh yeah, it figures. Anyway, we got out
after that. Yeah.
but here's what's funny.
Go ahead, say it again. Say it again. Say it again.
Say what again?
We got out.
There you go. Okay.
But here's what's so funny. I think we were back in the room. About 10 minutes later?
Back.
It's like, we're like, all right, well, we got out. We did what we said we would do now. So it was really kind of.
I bet that went over well.
Back. No, I'm sure not.
Oh, some semantics.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Bob, by the way,
what?
We were speaking with Janice Oberding last week.
Uh-huh.
And apparently she was there at the same time we were. I believe it was the first year we were there. And she was telling us that she caught an EVP in the surgical ward. And the same place we caught the I Am Jacob. And she said that it was a doctor who said, and I'm going to have to paraphrase this, I hope you're ready because we're going to leave. So I'm wondering if that might not be Jacob's father talking to Jacob. So it's something we need to do a little bit of research on.
Huh. Interesting. I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, me too. I maybe next week when we're up in Virginia City, we can have her play it for us. But you want to explain that the whole I Am Jacob? Because I'm telling you, I think that's the clearest Class A EVP I've ever heard.
Well, I mean, it's basically simple. So we're like in the surgical ward now, and it's on the same floor as the chair incident with Ash happened and stuff, but it's in one of the operating areas. And so we're all standing around the operating table, and Laurel goes, is there a doctor here? Or did she say, is there a doctor in the house, or is there a doctor?
She actually said, is there a doctor in the house?
That's what I thought. Okay. That just hit me, man. I'm like,
yeah.
Did she say house? The big house. Anyway.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So she goes, is there a doctor in the house? And clear as a bell, you get like a youngster, like a young man's voice go, I'm Jacob, or I'm Jacob.
Yeah, I am Jacob.
Yeah. And it was really clear, and it was like it wasn't like, like somebody who was old enough to be in prison either. It was like a little boy, like maybe 12 or something.
Yeah, something like that. It sounded like an adolescent boy.
Yeah. And we get a lot of people that say, why would you get a recording of a female on Alcatraz? Why would you get a recording of a little boy inside a prison hospital? And they don't think, or they don't know, I'm not sure which, both probably, that one, the guards had their families living on the island, and they had their, their wife, their kids, all that, but they lived outside the main yard in a place that was, built just for them. So, I assume that if you need a nurse, you get a nurse from the mainland. She comes in, and she was probably lowered down into the Sally Port to check the prisoners. And if your kid got hurt or whatever, or needed surgery or whatever, they probably took him up and, locked him in the cell and did their work on him in there. And, didn't think much about it, because it was pretty well separate from most of the prisoners. But
yeah,
they
exactly.
Needed to get attention. They might need attention, really, in a hurry. And that's all I could figure. But they did have, kids and females on there as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people
and
don't know.
The thing that's cool about the I'm Jacob EVP is that's another one that we actually caught 2 years in a row. The second year we were there, we were back up in the surgical ward, and I don't remember who was asking, but I remember somebody, saying, Jacob, are you here? And again, we get a clear EVP, and this time all it said was Jacob, but it was the same voice. So, that's one of the things that really just kind of, got me, was the fact that we were catching the same spirits 2 years in a row.
Do you think that it could have been another spirit that was presenting himself as a child?
That's always possible. He'd be presenting himself, I think, as the same child, but yeah, that's always possible. How will we know until we're on that side, I guess? But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was interesting though, because it sure sounded like.
Now, Bob, we did have the first year we were there, we did have sort of an amusing incident happen when we went back to get batteries. You want to tell the folks that one?
I'm trying to remember what you're talking about. When we went about the you mean late in the middle of the night? And we went back to okay, yeah, I gotcha. Okay, so yeah, we were up in the infirmary, at the time, and everybody's batteries were pretty much going dead at this point. So we're like, hey, let's all go back to the cell, to 14D, and get some batteries, and then we'll go back out. So as we come down out of the infirmary and around the corner, and you're looking down cell 14D, or cell 14, I'm sorry, the infirmary block, not the infirmary, the maximum security.
The cell block, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention too, my voice just sometimes goes out since I've been sick. So if it just cuts off, that's why. But anyway, so as soon as we turn the corner and we start walking down there, we look at all the jail cells, and they're 3 stories high, Brian, or 4?
3 stories, yeah.
And virtually every cell had a flashlight hanging on the bars of the cell. It lit, and all the investigators were asleep, and we were the only investigators that were still awake and investigating. And it was like, 3 o'clock in the morning or 3:30?
Give or take, yeah, 3:30, something like that. But, here's one of the things
we were cracking up.
Yeah, we were cracking up because we're thinking, okay, every single person on the island, other than the two rangers, are paranormal investigators. And every single one of them had to have a nightlight in their cell.
we just about fell out laughing, man.
You know, and we're just kind of like, oh my God, big bad ghost hunters. It was just oh my God, that first year we stayed up for what, 40 some odd hours. I mean, it was
wow. We did 3 investigations, I think, in a row without any sleep.
Yeah.
So it was like we were definitely. And then when we went back after the Alcatraz investigation to Ash and Laurel's apartment, we got back and they start reviewing evidence right away. And I'm like over there passing out, you know. And then they got the I'm Jacob thing, and they're like, "Wait, Bob, come listen to this." And so I'm like, "All right, what is it?" And so I come dragging over and listen to it, and I was like, "Holy cow, that's really good, man!" And so then I perked up and started listening. But it's like, that was a long.
That was really funny. At the time, Ash and Laurel were living in Pleasanton, California, which is just, you know, what, a half an hour, 45 minutes from
Brian?
San Francisco. Yes,
Brian.
Yes.
We're almost a minute up onto it, man.
Yeah, no, I'm keeping tabs.
Okay.
And it was the same thing, you know. We were all falling asleep. They caught that EVP. We all perked up, and I think we were up for the next 3 or 4 hours reviewing, and none of us were tired anymore. All right, so we are going to have to close the show now. Bob, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully you'll have us back again, or we'll have you back again. God, okay, my brain.
I'll have you guys back anytime.
Yeah. All right, so this was our last Saturday show. So please join us. We're going to be moving to Thursday nights from 8 to 10 Central. And next week, we are going to have Miriam C. Davis. She is the author of a book about the New Orleans Axeman murders. This should be a great show. So I know we're really looking forward to it. So if you know, please join us, and it should be a fantastic show. 8 to 10 Central on this network, and we hope to see you then. So until then, I'm Brian Clune.
I'm Pete Haviland, and Angie Mohle is around here somewhere.
I'm right here.
All right.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Bob. All right, and we will see you next Thursday.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys.
Bye.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experience Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.